My name's Steve Levenson. I am the convener for PDFA, International Convener. I have been since the beginning of the standard, which is probably about 11 years ago now.
2001.
Yeah, so more. Yeah, how about that? I've been counting. My daytime job, which actually keeps food on the table, is that I work for the Administrative Office of U.S. Courts. I'm not here just for the disclosure I'm not here to represent them here today. I have to say that. But I do work for the courts. We have a very, very large collection of PDFs. We're sitting about 750 million documents in collection today, active documents in collection. We have those distributed throughout the court system. We're fully electronic as of about 3 years ago. Our appellate courts were the last to come aboard, but the first court to come in was almost 20 years ago, which was a bankruptcy court in New York Southern. And since then, there was a rollout. It was a very long rollout to the various courts. But today, you can practice in our courts anywhere in the world. Our records rooms are non-existent. They're all electronic, and they're available to anybody who wants to get at them. We're kind of proud of that. This particular presentation, I have to credit the gentleman sitting down here to my right for this. I stole most of these, if not all of these slides from him, and we do that. We steal from each other. This presentation I first made, the UN was very, very interested, UNESCO is very interested in world heritage preservation, and they're very interested in PDFA as part of what they're going to do in their museum library collection. And I guess they ran out of people to send over there because they got down to me. And I went over and made a presentation in Marseille to UNESCO on this, and had used the slide deck over there to give them a perspective, which is what I want to do today. I want to give you a perspective of where were we 15 years ago when we were thinking about what was the market and where we're at. The reason why I want to do this perspective, and the reason I really enjoy this perspective, is that not everybody is up to speed yet in terms of using this tool and going at it. And why do you need this? When you walk back, those that raise their hand, particularly ones, the government people and the industry people, when you go back to your office tomorrow and somebody says to you, well, why do we need this PDFA thing? What value is it for us? I hope this presentation gives you a few of the tools that you need to say what value it brings back to your organization and where you want to use that. And you're at that point now, or could be at that point now, for where that is. So why a standard version of PDF? Well, it wasn't that it was a Wild West in any regard, but what is there? Probably 1,000 writers out there now, at least. You will find either in mainframe solutions to desktop solutions, almost 1,000 PDF writers, and they vary in quality. Some of them are horrible. We encounter those that we can't read from time to time. We process a lot of PDFs. Attorneys that submit documents to us, we only require PDF. We don't require that you go out and get product A or product B to do that right. So we have seen some that we just can't render, that are unintelligible. Some of them have advertisements built into the middle of them. There was some discussion about that I had during the break. About that. Funny story I'll share with you quickly. We had a judge who had a terrorist case involving some Germans, and up popped in the pleading that came. He was reading this pleading, and I don't know what his law clerk was thinking, but he'd gotten a reader out of Germany, and up popped this German language in this thing as he's reading this pleading about this German terrorist. So he called the marshal, and there was quite a bit of excitement in the courthouse that day, and they finally found somebody who could speak German. And the judge said, "What did it say?" He said, "You ought to buy this software." So, these sorts of unexpected things are not part of the business that we're trying to do. So we want a standardization. We want a standard for PDF. We want a business standard in where we're going. It's powerful and it's flexible. We want a degree of reliability. We want. And in the model, I am going to speak about the courts for a minute. In the model of the courts, we have for a very long time relied upon in content is relayed by position. And let me explain that for a second. An attorney may very well give a brief or a document that may be 50 pages long. their opposing party, who's limited to 50 pages as well, is not going to repeat that argument in their document and waste their pages. They're going to say, as my opponent said on the bottom of page 35, this is stupid, right? They're going to come back with that argument. They're going to sum it up with that. Well, if you go to render that document and that argument's not on the page of 35, bottom of page 35 from the original, you've lost content, right? So in our particular business, we were really sensitive to that. You may have that in your business as well and not realize it. We know we did. PDF was the obvious choice from us from the very beginning on what we needed to do in order to have accurate rendering of documents from day one. So the idea of PDFA, at the end of the day, a PDFA, what does it look like? It ends in .pdf. Okay, you saw that in the chart of the earlier presentation that we had. The big circle, you got PDF, and inside of it, you got the PDFA. At the end of it, what does it look like? It looks like PDF, a .pdf. But it is the first testable version. You saw the efforts that are being made now to start some testing on it, but it's a standard based on a standard. Now, you don't get that with WordPerfect, okay, or any of the other rendering software or other software that's out there in the market right now. This is something that you can actually rely upon not only now but in the first decade and multiple decades as you run through. So, in what was being said in 2004, okay, where were we back then? Let's go back historically a little bit. We called it PDFA for archive. Well, we got all the archivists mad at us because, oh, you don't know what archive is. You know, they grumbled, and you remember those days. But the word archive is a difficult word. You go to the IT community. Somebody says, oh yeah, let's archive those tapes. What do they mean? It's a backup for the night, right? That's what an archive means. It's a term of art that unfortunately means different things to different industries, and it is a term of art. I unfortunately have to correct the first speaker for those who were sitting in here and think. He talked about long-term, and he talked about long-term in 50 years. The committee actually talked about long-term of more than 2 versions of the authoring software. That was our first definition. Remember that, Mark? I think that's what we tried to come up with a definition, thinking it's lost by then. If you've gone through 2 iterations of the authoring software, you've lost it, Charlie. You're never going to get back to where you were. And we talked about long-term with that. Long-term has taken on different definitions now. I love the records officer from the Air Force came to a meeting one time, and she said, hey, if it's going to be more than 90 days in our collection, it's long-term. It's going to a long-term format. So, you know, you've got different people reacting to what long-term is in different ways, but long-term means that you're going to keep it beyond the expectation of the time that you can go back and recreate it in this long-term format. But archive just means you're going to put it away and you expect to retrieve it beyond the time that it's reasonable to do that. So who were our markets? Our markets were government, obviously. I mean, there were on there, but also the regulated industries. I want to thank the pharmaceutical industry who stepped up in the early part of the process, who looked at their process. They have a very long process documented essentially with PDF that talks about their trials and what they went through. They came in. You guys, if you want to throw in any other industries that were there that I forgot, you're welcome to do so. But nuclear regulatory, I know they came to our building and we talked to them. I think their records have a half-life of 40,000 years or something. I forget what they told me. But and the libraries, of course. And the Library of Congress were represented here by not our original member, but Butch Lazarchak is currently on our committee. The libraries were wonderful because the library said to us, library drove so many of our requirements back then about what you've got to do in a long-term format and what's critical in a long-term format. And they taught that not that we didn't understand it, but they drove home provenance, for instance. And the fact that later on in this, I'm going to talk about transparency and being able to inspect these documents and what provenance means and understanding. And you've heard Leonard very well explained what XMP was, that you bury your metadata in with your XMP to understand where this document came from or this collection of documents came from. We're giving those tools away to the archival community so that when it becomes into the real archive, not the archive that we're referring to, that they can then go ahead and use those tools in order to do that. So as we look at the issues again, the predictable parents, I got ahead of myself and I talked about that. The role of structure and content extraction. We threw a bunch of versions up on that screen earlier for those who were here. And there are a bunch of versions there because people's collections are in various states of conditions. You've got your legacy stuff. You got your legacy stuff that was probably scanned in or is going to be scanned in, if it's sitting in paper that you're going to go with. You need the basic. You just need a basic way to convert that to PDFA. There may be other content that you've got highly structured it's critical to you to have the structure in it because it's accessible for the reading machines for the visually handicapped, and you've got that set up, or it's critical in your business flow and process that it be read on multiple machines because the individuals in your corporation have they read it on iPhones, and they read it on iPads, and they read it on large screens, or whatever the requirements are in your company. And so your structure is critical and your flow is critical as you present this on different reading devices as you pass it through your company. So this was something that we felt was critical. And reliable appearance. We talked about that somewhat in my business process need, and that is that the appearance has to be the same through the ages because content or the format can convey content, and often does. Now, some of the restrictions we had, JavaScript, we had a little fun with that with the German language in that. We did that. The restriction of the annotations, fonts. As we discuss fonts in here, self-contained is something. I think the library drove this home. I want to give them the most credit for that, and that is that the lesson that we learned was if you want to preserve long-term, self-contained is really the best way to get there. And so bringing the font set that you used aboard and to bring it on, and boy, we caught a lot of heat over that over the last 10 years. Oh, it made it bigger and so on and so forth. Well, a scanned image is bigger. I mean, if you're going to be born digital and you're going to bring the fonts, it's not that much bigger, but that's been one of the things we've heard over and over again. It's been a little disappointing to me that people have said that because they're thinking so short term in terms of where they're going. But we brought that. The device dependent. Well, I'm not going to. I'll let Leonard answer those questions on halftones and so on and so forth. He does such a great job on that. But let's go on and talk the rest of these objectives, and then I get off of this after this slide. Consistent rendering, self-contained. We talked about that. Self-documenting, and the transparency I had talked about. We talked about direct analysis I hinted at direct analysis with basic tools. These are the things we thought about as well. That is, you might run across a collection of 10,000 to 1 million of these in some collection. You went to the attic. We thought about the attic, where somebody goes to somebody's attic and finds a box of records. What happens if you go to the cloud and you find a collection of 1 million records somewhere, and you need to find out what it is? PDFA has retained the ability to be directly inspected, to look at the metadata in XMP and to run through that. Widespread adoption. I'll tell you, Leonard hinted at some of the adoption of this. I think everywhere the euro's taken, it's adopted. South Africa, China, most of the United States. Last count, we had 11 states that have had bills making it the official format for the state, preservation format for the state. We in the courts have made it so the courts can adopt it. We may very well make it the adoption standard for the federal courts. The state courts will do what they want. Not a lot of them are on PDF, so they'll do that. I've certainly heard echoes of it in the nuclear industry, the other people throughout the federal government. Those who were here heard Kevin earlier. He's talking about it for NAR making it the transfer guidance. So certainly we've seen a lot of adoption. That's been very, very good news that we've gone through. So I think we met our goals. And I'm skipping a few slides here because I was kind of wordy on the first few slides, but I think we met our goals that we looked at in 2005. We we even went in and redefined the behavior of the readers a little bit too, as we walked through, which was a little bit historical in there. One thing I do want to talk about, and I think this is in terms of full disclosure, is I always have to talk about what don't we talk about in a file format, because I don't want you to go back to your organization and go, wow, I got the silver bullet, PDFA, it solves all our problems. We'll just adopt that and we've got archiving running. You don't, because we've still got hardware migration issues. And there was an example of that with the PhD paper. Again, those of you who were in this room who heard that the media doesn't fit in anymore. We've got OS and application issues. How many here know that every time Windows changes its version or has changed its version, it changed its basic font set? Anybody know that? Yeah, guess what? If you think you're going to rely on the basic font set, the given font, there isn't one. Okay, it's just not out there. So this is kind of shaky ground to be on. There's also this doesn't track documents for you, and certainly there's still digital rights management issues that may not be solved through the use of PDFA. Although PDF itself, if there are some digital rights issues, the normal things are raised. It is a PDF after all, and depending upon your rendering software that you use to do it, you may be alerted to that. So when you're thinking about it for permanent records, one of the nice things about it is it's one file format. Okay, whether you scan or whether you're born digital, you've got a single file format. Now, I can't think of a better present to leave to the engineers who are going to follow me 35 years from now than to have said, hey, I left you one problem, and one well-described problem in terms of what it is you're going to have to migrate. And I think somewhere, somebody, probably after I'm dead, and they go, I don't know who that guy was, but thanks, because this is all I've got to do. But the other part of it is that when you've got one single problem like that, one engineering problem to solve, it's probably going to get solved by a group of people, and so that resolution is going to be something that a lot of people can benefit with. Your agency or your company is not going to have to foot that bill in terms of where it's going to go. We're going to say that 80 years from now, PDFA A1 is going to be the answer to where you're going to be in terms of your collection. We don't know that. We don't know that. Hopefully it will, but maybe it won't. But you may have to migrate. And if you do, there are going to be a lot of people in that boat, and there are going to be tools that are going to be in the new operating system, the new computer system, the new way to store data, whatever the new thing is will be there. So PDFA 1, it allows you to maintain records longer than regular PDF, only because you wrote it correctly. Can you turn around and use PDF, regular PDF, to do a PDFA-like record? Sure you can, but it's a lot of work. And that kind of work, we didn't think in our business model, dealing with lawyers, we didn't think they could understand it. Now, 5% probably could, maybe 10% could, but the 90% can't. And so we could fight that battle, or we could just simply say, hey, go to the menu and pick PDFA and give it to us in that. And so when you've got a model like ours where documents are supplied externally by another organization, it's really nice to be able to tell them something simple so that when that's done, it's rendered, the fonts are aboard, everything that needs to be done is done. And so then you know what you've got. You've got a certified version of PDF in a format that you need it. Talking about the open and traditional PDF A1 maintained by ISO, when we began this thing, the biggest thing I always heard was, well, this thing's proprietary. It's owned by Adobe. We didn't think that was a bad thing. We thought Adobe was one of the more responsible companies in the world. They'd done a really good job. And actually, I think that before everybody started writing writers, it actually behaved a little better. When people started getting crazy and writing writers, it got a little crazier. And so we're really not, in terms of going out into the world and having this definition, it wasn't because of Adobe, it was because the other guys, not your company, Mark, but other guys that were out there. there were a lot of charlatans in the business, and there's a lot of junk that was out there. And so this has been extremely helpful in our particular workflow to be able to depend on I mean, what do you know about a PDF when it comes in? It ends in .pdf. I mean, unless you want to spend the labor and the time of rendering it, opening it, inspecting it, checking them at all the stuff that you could do, and you still may not be sure at the end of the day about it. So, that's critical as a records retainer, and that's what we are in the courts is we take records and we hold them. We're an independent record keeper, and the expectation is that if you come to us to resolve a dispute and we've got the record that you won, that we're going to keep that document that says you won as long as that's of some value to you. And that's a very, I'll probably get in trouble with judges making it that simple, but that's the end of the day. That's what they want. And so this is we've got to rely on a technology that's going to allow us to do the basic stuff. And that's where the rubber meets the road. There's Kevin probably gave a better, if you're going to get these slides, go to Kevin's site for the transfer guidance that's on the bottom of the screen. Don't rely on me. I don't know what I'm talking about. I think they updated it, but this did go, it looked like it went there when I tested it. Search, Born Digital PDFA is really the best of all worlds. We require searchable PDF to be given to us. So we're sitting here with 750 million searchable PDFs about law, which is pretty exciting to me. And there's potential for reuse and all sorts of things, and we haven't even gone there yet. So, of course, we're 20 years in. We're the courts, we move slowly, but we haven't gone there yet. But that's pretty exciting thing to do. I talked about file size. Leonard talked about optimization. Metadata. Metadata is a business process. It depends on what you need in that metadata. I will comment on PDFA -3. The -3 version, the ability to attach an arbitrary file to the end of it that will not be rendered by the reader upon opening is an exciting adventure for people who want to pass information around in the organization. Let me tell you, don't dismiss that one. And I think we're going to have something on it later, aren't we? Listen to that. What we're doing right now in our business model is we actually tuck some XML data in our bankruptcy notices. And when it goes to Fannie Mae extracts their machines, their electronic calendar machines, extract that data automatically and update their files. No human intervention whatsoever. And the document itself, the notice, the bankruptcy notice, is printed as a court document. And so you've got the ability to have both machine consumable and human consumable content in one document. And when you go to the reader and you open it up, it doesn't clutter your screen. You've got the document. And if you want, you go over a little paper clip and you can look at it if you want to, but you don't have to. And you've got this attached document. Or if you're that paranoid archivist who just has to have that WordPerfect version that's attached to the file that you've got, that you've rendered, you can attach the WordPerfect version. Doesn't render when you open the reader, but you can, if you have to go get it, or in your business process, if it's important that somebody update it or reuse the content of it downstream through your business process, it can be reused as you pass it along. Best of all worlds. Wow, we don't have to make choices anymore. We can have them all. We can have it all. So, I did want to comment on -3. That was not part of it. Want to read one, and Leonard had collected this, and I really think this is great. This is the University of York, and it shows the international kind of reaction that we got. Self-contained nature of PDFA also provides an excellent format for providing online access to reports. Far greater longevity than standard PDF files, some of which are starting to produce error messages 10 years after deposit. A problem I was grappling with in my last couple months of working at the ADS, not the cause of my leaving, I might add. But people in collections, large collections, I'm hearing this over and over and over again. And so the idea to come up with a certified clean PDFA is there. Now that PDF itself is in 32,000, it is as clean as can be as well. If you're using a standards-based, if you're using software that's standards-based, you're just as safe, but there's a lot of junk out there as well. How am I on time? How about questions? I want questions. Sir?
So some law clerk writing an opinion in Microsoft Word, do they have an option to save as a PDF 1A?
Yes.
They do?
Yes.
That's actually in Word?
We are accepting PDFA right now.
Uh-huh.
Can't tell the difference. It ends in .pdf.
I understand.
We're not requiring it.
No, but if you're in Word, and it says, go through the Word menu, it says save as.
The latest version has,
Save as PDF.
Yep.
I'm not aware.
the latest version has a, yes, latest version,
2007 and later.
yes.
And it-
Or
does
you
it
can,
tell you that? It just does?
No, it gives you a choice of regular
It does.
PDFA. Yep.
Okay, all right, cool.
or
That's what I want to know.
or you can print it. You can use Acrobat,
Right.
yeah,
Right.
or another.
But some law.
I don't want to get on one company or the
Yeah, I
other.
know.
Or you could use another authoring
So when
software.
you pick the A, that automatically puts all the fonts into the file.
Right. It'll do the right thing.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, and here again, I'm not trying to tout one company or the other, and we've always tried to be careful in terms of being on ISO. But I think Adobe's going the right direction, and I want to give them a kudos for this. Their latest version of the way you render this stuff, it says, do you want to archive? You go yes, and it picks the right version for you. I mean, I think that's the right way to go, and I really like that because it picks the best version for you. That if you've got structure, it'll yeah.
So if you open a PDFA PDF and you go to the file properties, will it tell you that it's a PDFA?
No.
No, but it shows it out. It shows in the case of Adobe Reader, you'll see a little standards icon, and it'll tell you that every PDFA, and it'll show you
So
that.
you can
You also
tell.
get the absolutely.
You can't tell. Okay,
Yep.
cool.
For purposes of the video,
And the,
can you go to the properties box and see that it's a PDFA? And the answer was, when you go to Reader, it'll tell you in the header.
and I know other viewers do it too. It's not just Adobe's. It's
Yeah, other viewers do it as well. I'm repeating for the video.
I got that.
Sir,
Steve Leonard. So on the issue of font embedding, is subsetting permissible or not?
you answered. I told him
Yes
yes.
is the answer.
Good.
Absolutely.
Good, I told the right answer when I was talking. Wow, that was close.
Yeah.
Did you hear that at the camera? Okay. No more questions? Everybody's going to go out there and do a PDFA tomorrow? Yeah? I hope so. I hope so. Your grandchildren will see it. And their children.
Steve, I guess from a vendor standpoint, what is the cost of the equipment and things from a PDF to a PDFA? I mean, obviously there's, whether it's embedded, are there additional, it was mentioned earlier in scanning that some of the higher end scanners will do PDFA directly. For the common person, is that $1,000? It's going to be, I mean, what are you looking at a cost to an organization for them to go to PDFA if they're not doing PDF?
Are there any scanning vendors in the audience who can answer that question better than I? I've been in the market and I have not seen a significant difference. And sometimes people rely on the software in the scanner, and some people will use external software to do that, depending on what your post-processing is. I'm real big on deskewing and all those post-processes and OCRing and everything when I'm putting away in the box as one flow. And so I tend to use external software to do it all. And so the cost is zero, it's a setting.
And the courts then recognize that even though you are deskewing and despeculing, you're not altering the content.
I'm talking about conversion from paper when we're doing our paper conversions. We require a searchable PDF, so majority of the stuff that comes in from everybody in the court setting has come in from a word processing device and has been converted to PDF or PDFA if they want to at this point. At some point it could become mandatory, depending on the court.
What would you see?
That the difference, that there is a difference whether you come from a scanner or whether you come from paper or from digitally created files. I think for a scanner, you just, and you don't have to do MRC, so MRC is just an option that you have. So I would think that a regular scanner will give you a PDF and you will need a tool like Adobe Acrobat in order to convert that to PDFA. And we have heard that for instance, for Word, you don't need anything else than just Word. It will give you a PDFA file. If you would want to do a conversion from PDF to PDFA because the authoring application that you're using does not give you PDFA, you would again use Adobe Acrobat or a similar solution. So
Now, if you're handing a colleague a PDF file and you want them to redigest it and change it in some way, you don't want to necessarily make it a PDFA file. So, I mean, this isn't the answer for everything. If you've got a workflow running, don't use it. Although there are companies that have got software out now that will reverse it for you, knowing that people do that and then they change their mind, or they want to take a copy and change their mind.
If I'm in Word or WordPerfect and I save as PDF, does it automatically embed the font? Does it?
If it's the question is, if I'm in Word or WordPerfect, does it automatically embed the fonts? And the question is, if it's it will. If it's just regular Word or WordPerfect, you have to turn that setting on.
I guess the comment was made, if anything Microsoft Office 2007 and beyond, do you know, is it just PDFA 1 or is it PDFA 2?
One.
It's just one.
At this time, it is just one. That's 1D. They don't do 1A.
But they are on the committee. Microsoft is on the committee, and Microsoft is trying to make strides to bring this to market.
But
So-
if you're trying to do any digital signatures or encryption of that document, that would not apply.
There is nobody in the world smarter about digital signatures than this man right here. Ask your question.
So that you can't, PDFA disallows encryptions. You never ever are going to encrypt the PDFA anyway. But PDFA 1 fully supports digital signatures. All versions of PDFA do. In fact, that was you may Steve kind of went past it, but it was absolutely one of the things that we wanted from day one in PDFA was support of signatures. Absolutely important to the thing.